Two North Carolina congressmen, both representing parts of the city of Durham, give their all in order to prevent two undocumented men seeking asylum in Durham from being deported to their native countries of Mexico and Honduras under the cold and heartless immigration policies of the U.S. government. The congressmen do not want to see the law-abiding men's families needlessly torn apart. A commendable act on the part of the politicians. Crystal Mangum, an African-American single mother of three, who was born and resided in Durham most of her life, had for years been seeking, through an intermediary, an audience with these two congressmen for the purpose of informing them of her unjust predicament and to seek their assistance. How would they respond to the pleas from their constituent? In topics regarding Crystal Mangum, Mike Nifong, and or the Duke Lacrosse case, the mainstream media is loath to report fully and objectively. If you are in search of the elusive truths on these matters, your journey is at an end beginning now. In 1994, Samuel Oliver-Bruno left his native country of Mexico and migrated to the United States, landing in Greenville, North Carolina. His wife, Julia Perez Pacheco, followed 2 years later, in 1996, with a work permit. Though not a U.S. citizen, Mr. Oliver-Bruno returned to Mexico at some time for reasons not disclosed in media reports. However, it appears that he attempted to re-enter the country in May 2014 to be with his wife, who was to undergo open-heart surgery. With fraudulent identifying documents, he was apprehended by border immigration officials and allowed to enter to face federal criminal prosecution. Mr. Oliver-Bruno was convicted, served his sentence, and was released for deportation sometime in June 2014. However, due to appeals and discretionary actions, he was not removed from the country. In late 2017, with the Trump administration now in office, Mr. Oliver-Bruno was informed that his appeals process had come to an end and that he was to be deported back to Mexico. Upon learning of his imminent deportation fate, he immediately sought sanctuary in Durham's Citywell Methodist Church, the ICE agents being loath to detain individuals in churches, hospitals, and schools. For approximately 11 months, the Mexican, marked for immediate deportation, lived in the basement of the Durham House of Worship with the support and encouragement of Pastor Cleve May and its congregation. It is unclear whether Mr. Oliver-Bruno was able to earn a salary as a construction worker while in a sanctuary, or how he was able to financially contribute to health care needs of his wife with a diagnosis of lupus, or provide financial support to enable his son, Daniel Oliver Perez, to attend college. The church, Durham community, and organizations such as Alerta Migratoria, which solicits congressional assistance in its advocacy on behalf of undocumented migrants, had rallied around Samuel Oliver-Bruno in his efforts to remain in the United States. Congressman G.K. Butterfield and David Price, whose districts both include a part of the city of Durham, have acted forcefully and jointly in advocating on behalf of Mr. Oliver-Bruno to remain in North Carolina. On November 1st, 2018, they sent a letter to Immigration Services requesting officials to use prosecutorial discretion in Oliver-Bruno's case based on humanitarian conditions. Both congressmen appeared and spoke out in favor of delaying his deportation pending his petition for a deferment. Sometime prior to Thanksgiving 2018, ICE and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services apparently teamed up to pull a fast one and coax the Mexican from the security of his religious sanctuary. He was directed to appear in person at the USCIS Mooresville office on Friday, November 23, 2018, to get fingerprinted as part of the process to have his petition for deferment heard. Instead, on that morning following Thanksgiving, ICE officers in civilian garb forcibly apprehended him inside the office building where he had been separated from dozens of his supporters who had accompanied him from the Durham church. Oliver-Bruno's supporters quickly surrounded the van into which the Mexican was escorted, which temporarily delayed his transport to a confinement facility in Wake County. In its wake was the arrest of 27 protesters in defiance of the surreptitious move by ICE agents. By that afternoon, Butterfield and Price issued a joint statement in which they said they had spoken with ICE officials and were assured he would remain in the country until his petition for deferred deportation was heard. Three days later, the morning of Monday, November 26, 2018, Dr. Reverend William Barber informed a crowd of Oliver-Bruno supporters gathered in front of the Wake County Jail that the Mexican immigrant had been moved earlier that day to a detention facility in Georgia. Reverend Barber had described Samuel Oliver-Bruno's arrest as evil. He further stated, quote, "Our brothers and sisters from Mexico should not be treated like black people were treated during slavery by the slave patrol when they would snatch them up," unquote. Later that night, after learning that federal immigration officials ruled that Mr. Oliver-Bruno had no legal basis for remaining in the United States, he issued a statement calling the federal government's response to Mr. Oliver-Bruno's appeal a sham and a miscarriage of justice. Congressmen Butterfield and Price, who claimed to have repeatedly worked to intervene on Oliver-Bruno's behalf, then personally called on the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, to reverse the Mexican's deportation order. Additionally, the congressional twosome demanded a full and thorough investigation into the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services efforts to apprehend Samuel Oliver-Bruno. The evening of Thursday, November 29th, just less than a week after his arrest, Mr. Oliver-Bruno was deported to Mexico, officially ending the media-bandied saga. Citywell Church officials said in a statement Thursday night, quote, "Moreover, Samuel's supporters are deeply unsettled by the collusion between USCIS and ICE to utilize a supposedly legitimate immigration process as bait for entrapment and ambush. This action undermines our democracy and threatens the credibility of U.S. agencies and government processes. Samuel's family, church, and supporting community condemn these actions and demand accountability for all immigration and law enforcement agencies that conspired in this operation, unquote. As was Mexican Samuel Oliver-Bruno. Though not as long in the States illegally for 2 decades as was Mexican Samuel Oliver-Bruno, Wildin Acosta entered the U.S. along the Texas border in 2014. Traveling alone, the 17-year-old lad left his native Central American country of Honduras to flee gang violence and the opportunity to reunite with his parents, who had been residing in Durham, North Carolina. Not held in custody, Acosta attended a deportation hearing in December 2014. But his failure to show up for one in March 2015 led to government efforts to have him immediately deported. In the meantime, he was enrolled at Riverside High School in Durham, where he worked unmolested by ICE for nearly a year towards a high school diploma. On January 28, 2016, Wildin Acosta was arrested after he left his home to attend school, charged with being in the country illegally and missing a court date. He was in custody at the detention facility in Lumpkin, Georgia, for more than 6 months until bonding out on $10,000 bail. He would return to Durham and subsequently graduate from Riverside High School. During his deportation quandary, Acosta received extensive and positive media coverage while accumulating supporters from the Durham community and government alike. Alerta Migratoria NC, an organization to assist illegal immigrants through the state-sponsored immigration morass that was bent on deporting them, lent unwavering assistance to him, including arranging for legal representation. Some Durham High School teachers even accompanied him to court in Charlotte. The Durham community and elected officials zealously advocated for him by writing letters to immigration officials. 4 of Acosta's classmates raising money for travel and expenses to go and lobby Capitol Hill on his behalf to receive asylum. Without doubt, U.S. Congressman G.K. Butterfield provided the most powerful punch in Wildin Acosta's armament, and he fought early with much vigor for his implanted constituent. He personally reached out to ICE Director Sarah Saldana. He even addressed the United States Congress on the House floor about Wildin Acosta's predicament. In December 2017, the Durham City Council rallied around Acosta and wrote a letter in his support to the immigration judge prior to his scheduled January 4, 2018 hearing. Not only that, but the City of Durham Human Relations Commission and the Board of County Commissioners also penned letters to the judge imploring that he grant asylum to Acosta. On January 3, 2018, one day before the hearing date of January 4th, Immigration Judge V. Stuart Couch ordered Acosta, 21, married to U.S. citizen Angela Campos, to be deported to his homeland of Honduras. Since then, with overwhelming support from the community, government officials, and the media, Wildin Acosta has been fighting the nearly year-old Judge Couch deportation order through legal appeals as he seeks asylum in the United States.